A woman, a woman in Bible prophecy represents a church prophetically. And what I'm going to be getting in here into today here is the church of Revelation 17:18, the woman that rides the beast, and her endeavor to rule the world with a one world government. In Revelation 17:18, it says, "The woman you saw is that great city that rules over the kings of the earth." So according to Scripture, this woman represents a church. This church rules over the kings of the earth. And if you doubt this, read Revelation 17:18 for those of you who are seeking and wondering who this woman is. A woman in Bible prophecy always represents a church. This woman is a great city. So this church is likened by God to a city. It is a city. So the woman is a church. It is also a great city, which means it's vast, it's large, it has great influence, that rules over the kings of the earth. And this great city, being a church, is calling for a global government, a global authority. And I'm going to prove this to you from Pope Francis' Laudato Si. So again, the woman you saw is a great city that rules over the kings of the earth. This church is a great city that rules over the kings of the earth. Let me get this article up for you. This is actually coming from a website called policestate.com, and I'm going to back this up with comments from Pope Francis from his Laudato Si. Let me see here. Let me show you this. This is from policestate.com. Vatican pushes for world government. Right here. So what did we just read in Revelation 17? A church, prophetically, because that's what a woman is a city which rules over the kings of the earth. The Vatican is that church. It is the Catholic Church is that woman that is prophesied in Revelation 17. And Vatican City is that great city which rules over the kings of the earth. And the Jesuits have taken over everything through Vatican City and through the papacy and through Rome. So it is not hard to see how this scripture has been fulfilled in our sight. Vatican pushes for a world government. Vatican City, Pope Francis has joined his papal predecessors in calling for a world government. In his latest encyclical letter, Laudato Si, the Vatican leader wrote a dissertation on environmentalism, laying out a litany of sins against Sister Earth, which he thinks should be combated by a new world political authority. It says here, it goes on to say from Laudato Si, the establishment of a legal framework needs to set clear boundaries. It says here, it is remarkable how weak international political responses have been. So he's saying that the political responses or the political authorities that already exist in the world have not done a good enough job at taking care of the earth, of handling economic crisis. Actually, I believe the economic crisis that's going on in the world is purposely orchestrated, order out of chaos, they like to say. I believe it's perfectly orchestrated in order to bring about an economic collapse so that there will be a global authority that has jurisdiction over a global economy. And that's just my personal opinion. He says here, enforceable international agreements are urgently needed. He says here, what is needed in effect is an agreement on systems of governance for the whole range of so-called global commons. And all these comments are being taken out of the Laudato Si from Pope Francis. It is essential to devise stronger and more efficiently organized international institutions, to manage the global economy, to revive economies hit by the crisis, to avoid any deterioration of the present crisis and the greater imbalances that would result, to bring about integral and timely disarmament, food security and peace, when they say peace and safety, to guarantee the protection of the environment and to regulate migration. That's interesting too. For all this, there is urgent need of a true world political authority, as my predecessor, blessed John the 23rd, indicated some years ago. Let me read that again. He's talking about peace and security. He's talking about the global economy, economies that are in crisis. For all of this, he's saying, the answer is an urgent need of a true world political authority that is universally recognized. He says here he wants to manage the global economy and to revive economies hit by this crisis, to manage a global economy. He says it again here. This is from Laudato Si, paragraph 67. There is urgent need of a true world political authority, as my predecessor, Pope John the 23rd, indicated some years ago. So he repeated this twice in a previous paragraph and again here. Such an authority would need to be universally recognized and to be vested with the effective power to ensure security for all. A global authority would need to be universally recognized and to be vested with the effective power to ensure security for all. And I want to get onto a different topic. A different site here. Who does the scripture say gives the man of sin his great seat and great authority? According to scripture, the dragon, that ancient serpent of old. And this article I'm going to read to you from is from www.vatican.va, towards reforming the international financial and monetary systems in the context of global public authority. I'll let you read that yourself. Sorry. So you can look up this website. It says here, calling for a global authority. And this is the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace. So if you want to look this up, all of these quotes are here. Vatican.va, Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace, in the context of having a global public authority. All right, let me get down here. All right. It says here, the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace now responds to the Holy Father's appeal. Of course, I consider that title, taking a title of God, which is blasphemy, but referring to the Pope, while making the concerns of everyone our own, especially the concerns of those who pay most dearly for the current situation. With due respect for the competent civil and political authorities, so they're trying to act like they're respecting international authorities, but they're really putting them down, demeaning them, like the previous comments in the Laudato Si. Pope Francis was quoted as saying that the international community is too weak to handle these situations. We need a global authority to handle these things. With due respect for the competent civil and political authorities, the Council hereby offers and shares its reflection towards reforming the international financial and monetary systems in the context of a global public authority. And I want to blow that up for you so you can see this a little bit. Let's see if you can read this down here, of a global public authority. I think it would be like right through here. Okay, so this is, in my opinion, the revealing of Revelation 17. And it goes on to talk about here in this article, economic development and inequalities, getting into socialism there. Let me see here. All right. An authority over globalization. So I want you to read this title here too. An authority over globalization. And remember, this is coming from a Vatican article here from the Pontifical Council. On the way to building a more fraternal and just human family, and even prior to that, a new humanism open to transcendence, blessed Pope John's teaching seems especially timely. In the prophetic encyclical letter Pacem in Terris of 1963, he observed that the world was heading towards ever greater unification. It says here, he then acknowledged the lack of correspondence in the human community between political organization on a world level, and the objective needs to be the universal common good. In view of the unification of the world engendered by the complex phenomenon of globalization, and of the importance of guaranteeing, in addition to other collective goods, the good of a free, stable world economic and financial system needs to be implemented, he says. This seems obvious if we consider the fact that the agenda of questions to be dealt with globally is becoming even longer. All right. And he goes on to talk about here, they want to gear things towards the universal common good. The purpose of a global public authority, as Pope John reminded us in Pacem in Terris, is first and foremost to serve the common good. Therefore, it should be endowed with structures and adequate, effective mechanisms equal to its mission and to the expectations placed in it. This is especially true in a globalized world, which makes individuals and peoples increasingly interconnected and interdependent, which also displays the existence of monetary and financial markets of a predominantly speculative sort that are harmful for the real economy, especially of the weaker countries. This is a complex and delicate process. This is why they admit, they're saying here, it's a complex and delicate process. It has taken them years and generations to bring this plan about, this globalization, this new world order. Get this part. A supranational authority in this arena should have a realistic structure and be set up gradually. This is what Freemasonry is all about. They're working hand in hand with the Jesuits and with the Vatican to accomplish this goal. Again, this is coming out openly from Vatican.va. This is coming from the Vatican, from the Pontifical Council. This is a complex and delicate process, a supranational authority. Get that? Supranational authority. And this arena should have a realistic structure and be set up gradually. It is a matter of an authority with a capital A with a global reach that needs to be imposed. Let me see here. The establishment of a world political authority with a capital A should be preceded by a preliminary phase of consultation from which a legitimized institution will emerge that is in a position to be an effective worldwide guide and at the same time can allow each country to express and pursue its particular good. A supranational institution, the expression of a community of nations, talks about here. What is valid on a national level is also valid on a global level. All right. And it goes on and on to talk about this global authority. All right. Point number 4 says reforming the international financial and monetary systems. That to me is clearly Revelation 13 coming to pass. All right. And then it goes on with conclusions about why reforming the global international economy and having a global public authority is needed. Again, if you want to look this up, this is from Vatican.va, Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace in the context of a global public authority. So let's get back to Revelation 17. What does it say again? Revelation 17:18. The woman you saw is that great city who rules over the kings of the earth. In modern English, this is saying that church that you saw, because a woman represents church in Bible prophecy or in scripture. The woman you saw, or the church you saw, is a great city that rules over the kings of the earth. And I just gave you proof from the Laudato Si and Vatican.va of this scripture being fulfilled. A church that is a great city that rules over the kings of the earth. That spells global government and the New World Order to me, and the fulfillment of Daniel and Revelation. God bless you. Thank you for listening.